We're back as we continue to get ready for training camp. Today, we're going to take a look at wide receivers. Paul Dottino, John Schmelk with you. And, Paul, it's a loaded position. A lot of players to talk about. But the veteran of the group has to be Golden Tate, one of the most consistent receivers in the league.
10 years in the league, and Golden Tate has shown no signs of slowing down, John. You look at him catching 6 touchdown passes in limited action last year. That tied for the second most he's ever had in an NFL season. And when you talk about productive, this is a guy who still gains roughly 5 to 6 yards after the catch. One of the best at doing that in the league. And should I also add that even though he's on the other side of 30, John, his yards per catch average was 3rd best of his career. It doesn't look like he's slowing down at all.
No question about it. And if you look at a per-game basis, Paul, Sterling Shepard coming off one of the best years of his career. Now, he has to stay healthy. He suffered a couple of concussions last year, which is something that we're all obviously going to keep an eye on. But he is a guy that can get open and be very productive playing inside.
Yeah, there's no question. Shepard is really one of the most dynamic slot receivers in the conference, if not in the league. Now, I think a couple of things he would like to do besides stay healthier this season: catch some more touchdown passes, reach that end zone. Only had 3 scoring receptions last season and only averaged about 10 yards a catch. I think both of us would agree, John, with his kind of versatility in terms of how he runs his routes and his quickness, he's got to be able to get that average a little bit higher.
Then you have Darius Slayton, a rookie last year, a day 3 pick, led the team in touchdown receptions, was really their speed, big play guy down the field.
Yeah, the one thing that I would love to see Darius Slayton do as he takes the next step to becoming even more impactful than he was last year is to make more big plays in clutch situations. We know his average yards per catch was good. We know he was able to find the end zone. But I'd like to see him come through with big catches and big moments. A lot of 3rd and longs, converting first downs. When he does that, he will be taking his game to the next level.
Paul, then a huge competition for who else is going to make this position group. The only other guy with a ton of experience as a receiver is really Corey Coleman, who was a former first-round pick. He was having a great offseason for the Giants last year before he tore his ACL at the start of training camp. But he's got all the talent in the world if he's healthy.
Well, he's a burner, John. And let's face it, the Giants really could use somebody who can flat out burn and stress defenses in that capacity. I think Corey Coleman, if he is able to prove that his legs are okay and he can still burn like the best of them, he can definitely have an impact on this team as the 4th receiver.
Then you have Cody Core, who's a veteran, but a special teams ace. He was one of the best gunners I've seen last year with the Giants covering those punts.
He's terrific in that role, and that's why I don't necessarily know that I'd want to bog him down with too many snaps in the standard offensive set. I think for me, I would tell Cody Core, just do what you do, because on special teams, you are a demon. Just concentrate on getting that part of the game down.
All right, Paul, then I'm going to group these next sets of young wide receivers into 2 groups. Let's touch on 3 undrafted free agents from this year first. You have Derek Dillon out of LSU, who's a speedster. Benjamin Victor out of Ohio State, who's a bit of a tree, very tall guy. And then Austin Mack, who does a little bit of both, also from Ohio State.
Yeah, well, you look at Victor. He's obviously got the size and the wingspan. We've talked about it on BBKL. This is a guy who is in the 96th percentile in terms of receivers coming out of the draft, even though he wasn't drafted. But my goodness, you just throw that ball in his area, and he can go up and get it. A dangerous weapon in the box, or with a big box in the red zone. Austin Mack, 91 percentile when you talk about his wingspan. I think he can go up and get it. He's great at 50-50 balls. He runs terrific routes. He can play all 3 receiver positions. I'm a big fan of Mack. I like him to be the dark horse to make this team. And you mentioned Dillon. Dillon's a slot guy out of LSU. Just a shade under 6 feet. Blazing speed, runs in the 4.2s. But you know what, John? He didn't get a lot of action at LSU, so I think to some degree he's still a relatively unknown.
Yeah, and he's a little raw. He's going to have to work on his technique and those things to succeed in the NFL. The other 3 guys, Paul, I'll just throw them out to you. You have David Sills, who joined the team last year, a bigger receiver. He was in the 2019 draft class. Then you have Alex Bachman and Damari Scott, who was with the Giants last year as well.
Yes, Scott had a cup of coffee. Remember, he had been in Buffalo camp before he came to the Giants, so a little bit of experience there. I look at these guys and I say, well, I got to think that there's enough depth ahead of them that they're going to have quite a road to hoe if they're going to sneak onto the back end of the roster. But remember, practice squads are expanding, John. So it's important for a guy like Sills, who, again, at 6'4", with a long wingspan, he's got the ability to be a medium-range guy, possession receiver. He could be somebody who could help this team out a lot in the long run. And finally, Bachman. This is another guy, just maybe a shade under 6 feet, had some speed at Wake Forest, but again, was kind of a part-time player. And because he had a really good Birmingham Bowl game a couple years back, caught the eye of the Rams, the Giants brought him in. He's as tough as nails, and he's got good quickness. Again, more of a slot receiver, though.
Yeah, the Giants might lack that Julio Jones or A.J. Green or, DeAndre Hopkins type of 1A all-pro receiver, but they have a lot of players that can get open, that are productive, and can make plays for this Giants offense. It'll be a fun group to watch in 2020. Paul, great stuff. We appreciate the time.
Good to see you, John.